JB and I have been talking at the beginning of the show, and uh, uh, is the bar lower for goaltenders right now overall? Less expectations?
I don't think the bar's really lower because people still expect the world of their goaltenders, but I think there's kind of become a reality that now there isn't that same 2 to 3 goalies that seem like they're so far above everybody else in the league. You know, I mean, even last year you'd look and you'd say, oh, Shesterkin, man, and Vasilevsky, these are the 2 best goalies on earth. Well, you know, look at their numbers this year. They're kind of mid-pack or pedestrian in some ways. And I think it's just across the board, goaltending's become so optimized that unless you're getting really bad goaltending, you're not noticing it quite as much, I think. But it's just kind of, we're at this stage where the water's kind of murky. You know, you may have a goalie that's really good for a stretch, and then you lose him for a bit, and you wonder, what's wrong with this guy? Why can't we get him back? And then the guy's back for several games. So I'm not sure that the bar's lower, but I do think that the players are starting to outpace the goaltenders in terms of their skill set. I think the players are starting to get the advantage again.
Do you want to add to that? Because I do as well.
Okay, I was just going to ask if you think that, you know, the overall decline in save percentage is just because starters play less. Like we used to see the best 30 guys play 60 times. Now you're seeing the best 60 guys play 40 times each. Could that be part of the reason you see a decline in save percentage?
You know, I'd actually go the other direction on that because if you got a guy who plays 35 or 40 games, that gives them a chance to have a really crazy high save percentage because they haven't had it even out over the course of the season. The more games you play, it tends to bring the save percentage down or up conversely, right? It always meets in that kind of like big bell curve of life in the middle of things. Mm-hmm. So I would actually argue that by goalies playing, you know, a little bit less, it may actually intensify save percentages and bring them up like we saw with Shesterkin last year. But I really believe it, though, that goaltending has become so optimized that realistically there's not a lot of room for growth in the position. The goalies are all 6'4" now. They all kind of play the same way. And I think the skill of the players is what is now increasing at a pace that's gone past what goaltending has in recent years.
Yeah, and you bring up an interesting point that they all play the same. And if that's the case, then maybe that's one of the reasons why they're so interchangeable. And I don't know what the numbers are. But I'm guessing that if the average over like 10 or 15 or 20 years would be for the league to see 90 different goalies a year, the number is probably closer to like 120, 130 now. Mm-hmm. And is it because Mike, they all play the same, and it's like, okay, let's just get another guy that is square to the puck and, you know, does all this, and they all look the same. Like, we're not finding any Dominic Hašiks who are rolling on their backs and, you know, spread eagles, you know, on your back. Is that fair to say that a third string goalie can look a lot closer to a starting goalie than he ever has in the past?
Well, I think you're spot on with it, Kipper. I mean, you're at the point now where goalies in an organization, you go 1 through 5, and there's not necessarily a huge amount of difference there. It's really just who can be consistent at the NHL level. And I've said this for a while, that you can pull a goalie straight out of the ECHL, or you can pull a goalie right out of major junior or college, and they could play one great game in the NHL, but can they do it consistently? So that's really what separates goaltenders, I think, at the top end. But in terms of the mechanics themselves, every goalie can do a butterfly slide. Every goalie can use their posts now for integrations. Every goalie is trying to track the puck in the same way. It's just because we figured out what works best. It's who can execute it and who can do it within the parameters of their own body. So that's part of it. But what we've also talked about, too, that technical side, it's also really hard on the goaltender's body. The wear and tear is at a level we haven't seen before. The body's doing a lot of really unnatural things, and that's led to a lot of injuries in the past several years.